We're here to talk through this Kurotto Skyscrapers puzzle by Prasanna. It's fairly challenging in that it doesn't have right away any clear Kurotto only steps, and the skyscraper steps are a little subtle, but the two work together really, really well, at least in this particular example. And so the ways to break into the puzzle are to understand how it is that they do work together. There's maybe one clue that stands out a little bit, which is this 3. A 3 is going to be something like a 1 plus 2 plus 3 or 1 plus 2 plus 4. There's not enough room in a grid. There's maybe a 1, 3, 4 option, but the size of shaded groups 2 actually limits that. But this 3 isn't actually the key part of this puzzle. I think the break-ins have to do with skyscraper clues that are sizes like 2. So let's take this example of a 2. It's going to have at least a group of size 1 and then a next group that's at least of size 2. So there's a 2 shaded somewhere in this column. And whether you saw that from the bottom clue or the top clue, a group of size 2 can't be shaded near any of these clues from the Kurotto that have only one shaded cell. And so the largest group you can shade in this whole column is right here. It's too large vertically. And provided we shade some single cell here, we can fulfill the 2 and the 2. The same kind of logic actually works for these 2 horizontal skyscrapers clues, and where you have paired clues at the top and bottom, these may be the last ones you look at, but again, a 2 in a skyscraper sense will have at least a group of size 1 or more, and then a group of size 2 or more. And after you place the group of size 1 or more, the first place a 2-sized group could sit is here, which won't work because of the 1 clue, or here, which won't work because of the 1 clue. It ends up it has to sit all the way over to this edge and won't connect here. And the same exact logic, even though the 6 versus 3 is different, the same exact logic works because of the 1 over on this side. So this is the way I got started in this puzzle, and well, it's not a typical way to start. It gets a fair amount of the grid moving. And from here, we now have to think about how to continue to extend the results. And let's just keep looking on these rightmost columns for a little bit. Now we have a top which sees 1 building and the bottom that sees 2 buildings. So thinking again that this will be at least size 1 and then size 2 or more, there will be a building of size 2 or more somewhere in these middle 4 cells. And there's no small building up top because this 1 is going to see this building of size 2 or more, and then everything behind it will be hidden. And if we actually choose 2 cells that are here or here that touch to this clue, we now join the group to this group on the left. And so we could actually mark off that this cell isn't usable once we put these 2 in. And so now the only place we can put in a group of size 2 is here. We can't see a building before it, but we can see something after it. Now let's do a similar thing over on this side in the second column from the right. I'll again sort of start by just saying this cell here can't be used because it would join to a group and therefore make it already too large. This is going to see a building and then potentially 2 more. And then from the top, it's going to see a big thing and nothing larger than it. I guess one thing that may help right away is to actually deal with this Kurotto clue. So I'll go ahead and do that at this stage. There's only this option for it. And recognizing that we've filled in 2 cells here, every other group in the space has to use at least 2 cells. It could actually use all 3, but the biggest size has to be on this edge. If we actually come back now to where we're looking at this grid, a few things we can say. The first is this can't be a single 1. Because it's going to need to see the biggest building before a smaller building. And so a deduction that gets a little bit of momentum in this puzzle is to finish out this 2 by 2 square. It completes the 4. It says the biggest building up top is too large. And it actually then says all of these are just too large in this column, so we finished this column. This cell can't be shaded, and that's because the total sum right now of groups around it is 6. Adding this in would give 7, 8, 9, 10. And so this now is a group that can't have another cell shaded because you wouldn't be able to fulfill this clue of too large. So it's down like so. That means this group that's coming off of the 1 has to come here, can't go here, and it's going to be 4 large. And so that's going to take a fair bit of space. And the group up here gonna shade in here. I was gonna finish working off the clues I do know for a bit. Finish out the right side of the grid in that way. Still some things to think about. This horizontal clue needs to have some bigger building to its right. This clue looks okay right now with 1 and 2, but we're not going to have something very big over here. This one right now is seeing 2 cells. That looks great, but it can't have a smaller thing than 2 cells before it. So the first place you could shade would this, and would have to take 2 adjacent. This sees 2, so again, it's going to just be a space where it doesn't have as many as 2 cells. So for both of these clues, I can mark this kind of notation, which says that a shaded group isn't going to cross over and take 2 horizontal cells. So now we can finally try to come back to this clue that maybe a place a lot of people were thinking to start, which is going to be a building of at least size 1, and then at least size 2, and then at least size 3. And you actually know for sure the first one has to be 1 large. With this cell marked off, it's now required that you have a 2 and then a 3, 4, or 5 up top. But this 1, 2, and then something larger is a way to think about the start. And it is the case that this largest building will be at least 3 large. So I'll just mark 3 plus on this in this direction. And it can't start here. If it did start here, it would be 3 large and touching a 2 clue. So the 3 group starts in this cell and takes at least 1 more, so it's something like this. The 1 and the 2 that would fulfill this clue itself will have to sit down below like this. And so this is start to the very left side of the puzzle. With these 2 cells shaded, this cell can't be shaded. That now forces this cell to be shaded. And because it sees 1 total group, with 2 already over here, we've got to form at least 2 long in this space, and can't form 2 more over there. This group totally needs to see 7. It's got 2 to the left, so this is a group of size 7 coming over here, and so it only has 1 path now, which is fairly restricting. This is 3 large, but this external clue needs to see at least 1 more, so that's here. This sees 1 more building, or 1 more cell, I should say. Just here, we still have to get something that's 3 tall up top. We've now done that. This 2 clue at the top says we need to see a group of at least size 2 down below in the grid. And the only place left that can do that is all the way down here, so this is forced for sure. And this clue, as long as we don't do that, is now fulfilled. The ones here, seeing a 1 tall building, really just say any of these can be shaded, so that these will be fulfilled regardless of what we do. This group of buildings of size 2 says that if anything more is shaded in here, it's got to be at least 2 large. We can't shade both of these cells, because that would make this group 5 large, so these aren't usable, and then this isn't usable. This will be the first building seen from the bottom, and there could be 2 more up here, but sort of fulfill that in. These all look good. This 4, seeing as many as 4, looks okay. This 2, 3 is probably going to be part of the solve, and it's going to be driven a lot by these 2 clues that have to see 6 total buildings. There's 1 cell here, so there's 5 or 6 up here. Once we know that there are 5 or 6 up here, there's a constraint, which is that this cell to the left can't be in the same group as this. It takes as many as 7 to come across, so there's some disconnect between these cells. If this is shaded, then we have a 4 group plus a 5 or 6 group around the 6, which isn't going to work. And that now says there's some large group up here, and a question is, can it connect to this cell? A way to do it is like this, or another way to do it is like this. But both of those will make a 3 or 4 large building in this row, and this row has to have a bigger thing to the left and a smaller thing to the right. So this group can only become as large as 2 cells, That's sort of how I'd see it. It could be 1 or 2, but there are different ways to finish it as long as that. So at least one of the cells here is not used, and so this group has got to be 5 or 6. Is now pinned as soon as we mark this clue to these cells, and forcing this. This is okay, this is okay. These two up here force the bottom to also see a 2 building as soon as it can. Just down here. This being off of a 3 means this can't connect, so gotta do this. And just checking the remaining clues. Everything now is fulfilled, and all the Kurotto is good. So we got through this challenging puzzle. The break-in is maybe the hardest step, because it does require you to use Kurotto and Skyscrapers together, but it's these 2 small ones, as well as these vertical clues and these horizontal clues that need to have a group of size 2 around them. And so this, and this are filled based on that. We can then use some of the larger building requirements to get the shape of this 4 cell region. Starts to force some of this 9 shape. And then a lot of the rest on the left side was dealing with this longest column, getting a big building up here, but seeing it's got to separate out from these 6s. So it's a pretty narrow solving path. This video probably covered a lot of how solvers got through it. So hopefully you learn a little bit about how to try to combine these puzzle types, and certainly ways to think about the notations together, and even just call out unusual points of a puzzle, like very extreme digits. This 9 and these 1s are some of the key places you'd think to be beginning, and so using the clues that point at them is indeed how to scope down. If you want to be a faster solver, the ways to spot the break-in points are often those unusual spots that stand out to your eye. So thanks for listening, and we'll see you again soon.